Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm Shanti Ryle, Director of Content Marketing here at Crexi, and today we are so excited to sit down with Jay Luchs, Vice Chairman at Newmark. Before we jump in, we're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I
Thanks a lot.
have, we're very excited about this conversation today. But before we dive in, I want to give our audience a little bit of your background in case they somehow don't know.
Okay. Please. Thank you.
So Jay Luchs is vice chairman at Newmark and one of Los Angeles's most recognizable commercial real estate brokers, known for his for lease and leased signs across the city. And when I tell you that's true, everywhere. Those signs are everywhere. Very much a part of your brand. He specializes in retail, office, and investment sales, representing top global fashion brands, entertainment companies, and emerging retailers. Lux has completed major transactions for clients such as LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Celine, Kith, James Purse, and Equinox, to name a few, including high-profile deals along Rodeo Drive, Melrose Avenue, and Sunset Boulevard. He played a key role in LVMH's $200 million purchase of the Luxe Hotel and the $122 million sale of 459 North Rodeo Drive to the Reuben brothers. He's also helped launch first stores for brands like Alo Yoga and James Purse, and secured pop-up and permanent spaces for brands like Supreme, Skims, and Fear of God. In addition to retail, Lux places corporate offices for fashion and entertainment clients, including Tom Ford, H&M, Staud, and Brunello Cucinelli, and various LVMH offices. He's also active in the local art and restaurant scenes, helping galleries like Gagosian and
Gagosian.
restaurants like Craig's, Avra, and Tao Group find key locations across Los Angeles. Lux and his team represent over 125 landlord listings. Wow. In premier areas such as Rodeo Drive, Abbot Kinney, and Malibu. A top producer at Newmark since 2014, he has closed several $billion in deals. He's originally from Maryland and graduated from the University of Virginia and has lived in LA since 1995. Jay, I'm so excited. Welcome to the
Thank you.
podcast.
Excited to be here. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot. Really appreciate it.
No, we're really grateful to have you. Really
Thank you.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time. I know I just read off your very impressive background,
Love it.
but I would love to dive deeper into
Okay,
your
cool.
career
Thank you.
in your own words.
Let's go.
So, you've built one of the most recognizable names in luxury retail real estate,
Thank you.
I think.
Appreciate it.
What first drew you into this world?
Well, I grew up with a dad in real estate in Washington, D.C., and his dad in it. So I didn't want to do real estate because of that. I
Yeah.
wanted to come into Hollywood and become an actor or a producer or all the things that you don't know what's going to happen at age 23. You kind of want to be thrown in. So I moved here for a summer and never left. But I started for the first 2 to 5 years, like full on entertainment. And then it started out acting, then it became more like the business side of entertainment.
Sure.
Then the last job I had in the business was 2 weeks at Endeavor, which is now WME, in the training, like the mailroom.
Yeah.
And then after that, 2001, I got into real estate, and that's what happened. I just stayed in, fell in love with real estate.
How'd you fall in?
Well, I had worked at a real estate company called Epstein and Associates a couple years early, like in 1997 or 8 for like a year. And I got into it a little bit, and that was at a time when Starbucks and the Gap were expanding. And I was in this kind of, I wouldn't say as an assistant, but I was brought in and started out, and they were teaching me things. So I was in that for a year. Then I got out of it, went into ad sales at AOL when that was a thing.
AOL, yes.
And that was more to get an income, and real estate was like all commissions. It was crazy. In my 20s, it was just tough. So got into it, AOL, and then about a year and a half later, I started looking at real estate companies. Something popped up in my head. I remember sitting at a desk at United Paramount Network, and I don't know if someone said it or it's in my head, but I remember hearing real estate is like wine. It gets better with age. And I always now say knowledge is power. It's like a thing I have. And it's true. Looking back, the more you know, that's the power. Like knowledge is like a product. So anyway, it was true.
Yeah.
And I got out of it, and glad I did.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll get into this a little later, but it gets easier the more knowledge you have too and the more relationships you've built up. So
True. It becomes real. And then it
Absolutely.
becomes a flow. It's not memorizing. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
It becomes real.
Yeah. And fewer reps. Not quite as much cold calling, I imagine.
True, but we
You're
still
like,
do it.
maybe not.
It's part of the world. I have to say, we can talk about it later, but
Absolutely.
cold calling it doesn't have to be like, hi, I'm calling, like you're sitting in a booth cold calling, but
Yeah.
it's a different way of doing it. But I call people who may or may not know me or who don't know why I'm calling. I mean, you go after people, go
Yeah.
after brands, you go after people that you know, that even when you do know them, you have to keep calling them, try to get them. And you pound away at it over time. I mean, you have to kind of slightly annoy people without totally annoying them. That's the goal.
Yeah.
You can't just think they're going to call you and oh, my Malibu project, you're just going to show up. You have to call, and then eventually you place the puzzle together.
Yeah. Leading the horses to
So,
water.
you know,
Absolutely. So you get into real estate, and when did you decide that retail was the angle you wanted to get into, especially because retail leasing is so competitive? Did you have an early on major win? Was it something else that happened that changed your trajectory?
yes, definitely. So retail when I started wasn't as much of a thing as I feel like it has become because now we have Instagram and social media and fashion is such a thing. And if we really think about all the things like TikTok, in fact, what it's become, it really wasn't like that then. We had emails, we would send out emails when we had a listing. Or we put the signs, I definitely did then and I still do now. It's an important part of what retail brokers do because people want to drive by and call, and we all kind of compete to do the best we can, splattering our name around town. But at that when I started, it was definitely a different world when I was working for a company where they were looking for Starbucks and Jamba Juice and the Gap locations. I fell in love with the Rodeo Drive, Melrose, Abbot Kinney, Soho, New York, Malibu, whatever we call it, fashion brands, both luxury as well as what we call contemporary fashion brands and startups. Like it's nothing greater than finding locations for people that have ideas and you're kind of searching for that idea. And in some cases they became really big, brands.
Absolutely. So you were really interested and excited by luxury and also highly creative entities, it sounds like.
Yes.
So can you paint a picture a little bit of how you became the go-to person for these groups to get these highly coveted, really competitive locations? Obviously, there's a high premium for these spaces, but there's also a lot of creativity involved. So I'm
True.
curious, how did you find yourself working on maybe like the early deals
Sure.
and what was involved with negotiating
I
those?
kind of feel like the good question, the realness it has to kind of be real. Like my best, I guess, reasons for getting deals done, which turns into success if you close deals and you're making a living from it, is being real. You're not overselling because you're really just into getting the deal done. There's times I close a deal and I forget, then you forget to invoice sometimes. You forget you just get excited the deal got done. It's just a thing. So you got to get into the deal. Um, you do start caring about two sides. And even though they're technically on opposite sides, the landlord and the tenant, I care about the landscape of LA. So I don't want to just throw a random tenant in that weighs the street down. And I also care about the tenant. So I want the tenant to be happy and come back for more and tell their friends that I did a good job. So it's kind of, you just want to it's a connection.
Sure.
It's some people talk about landlord side, tenant side. I like to think I'm a mediator to bring deals together. By the way, in Europe, it's a bigger issue, landlord, tenant, one side, the other. And sometimes one person will do something and they'll bring in someone just to throw them in. It's a curation. It's art. It's bringing people together that a lot of times do not like each other.
Yeah.
So when you can be in between two sides fighting and you can get it done, there's more to it than just being a broker. I mean, the word broker isn't even the right word in my opinion, but
Sure.
it is. We are. It's what I am. But it's definitely connecting people and doing it in a way where if you truly believe in what you're doing, it doesn't feel like a deal. You're just doing it and it's like you got to check the box and get it done and move on to the next, but it's like a puzzle.
I want to underline what you said about really caring about the retail landscape of the community in which you're working and living. I think, there's a lot to be said, and maybe this comes from the acting entertainment background. I actually have my theater degree, so I
That's great.
understand the
Yeah.
thing there. Um, but I think, there's a lot to be said for even as like a younger professional starting out, being able to do deals in such a way that allies with that or allies with that intuition, with that bigger picture, and also with, I think, being able to sell, huge names in retail on this vision of what it could be. So I'm curious, do you feel like, how do I phrase this question? But how do you think you were able to not only like first connect with these titans
Yeah.
of retail,
Right.
but sell them on that vision when so many other brokers maybe would just be like, hey, I'm here just to do the best by you and be a yes person
Right.
and,
Well,
acquiesce.
I I get what you're saying, and part of what you're saying is probably like how are you getting to that top level?
Yeah.
Like how and it started in 2003 with a deal on Rodeo Drive to get to that level, but it has become the norm. But you still can never take it for granted. So it's competitive, and I want to represent the best brands.
Yeah.
But it's also become what I know.
Hmm.
So while it's these incredible brands, like we could go down the list of names, that's the business I'm in. Like I love brands, and whether it's the highest level, an LVMH brand on
Mm.
Rodeo Drive, or Amelie Andoré or Kith or Street or Supreme, and like street type deals. Like I mean, I'm wearing sneakers, Nike sneakers now. I love sneaker culture. I love art and photography and all those things. And I also love fashion. And then the fact that it's business, you can turn it into business, like doing the Supreme deal or doing Kith or Amelie Andoré or all the James Purse and the Rodeo Drive names like we've talked about. I love it. It is a bit of a rush too. It's exciting to be doing deals with those that you look up to in the fashion world, unrelated to real estate. But not every deal you do is a brand you love. I mean,
Yeah.
I do deals, could be an office for a great company that no one's heard of. I mean, it's doing a deal. The deal is a deal, and you want to see that deal from beginning to end, and that just becomes just like anyone. That's the job. I
Yeah.
mean,
Do you still have that feel of cultivation or curation rather when you're doing office deals as when you're doing retail?
um, I actually really enjoy office deals
Mhm.
now. I mean, I'm known as a retail broker in my community of, whether it's real estate or just in the world, because people see the signs up. What you don't see are the office buildings deals are done in.
Yeah.
But they can be exciting, and getting deals done is exciting, even if the name isn't big. But I have done office leases for really great fashion brands. And I guess it is a little more fun when you do that.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I'm not going to say it's not.
Sure, sure. And we can get more into kind of what you're seeing
Yeah,
more so in the office
definitely.
space a little later.
Definitely.
Um, can you share a story of perhaps one of the tougher deals that you've worked on? What made it more challenging and how did you go about coming to a resolution?
Um, I'm thinking of two different kinds of deals. I'm thinking one Supreme on Sunset. I'll tell you that one, and then I can tell you a modern day situation. If that's cool. I'll
Yeah,
do two.
let's do it.
Uh, that building at 8801 Sunset Boulevard used to be Tower Records. So it's Tower Records forever. And I was brought in to be the leasing agent on a property that the owners wanted to build like a big office building. And it wasn't historic. And they went through years of going through approval. And years later, after they were approved to do a 50,000-foot office building, I talked to them about, because I wanted to see it stay. I actually had a passion to have it not knocked down and see it stay. And I asked that owner, what would your price be to sell it? Because that some owners buy to then sell, and some never sell. In my business, we call a lot of owners who just never want to sell. They give it to their family. They don't want the tax hit, whatever their reasons. It's not easy to just get a building to sell. Leasing is everywhere, but selling is a little more few and far between. That owner was a private equity company that had a 5 to 7 year outlook that we're going to buy it, we're going to put money into it. We're going to get the income high and we're going to sell it. So we buy it for X. We want to sell it for 3 times or whatever their number. I did ask what that number was, and they told me. And I found a buyer who I knew wanted to keep the building as is and was willing to pay the price. And after that, the hard part was it could have been a Bank of America. Nothing wrong with Bank of America, but it could have been a bank. It could have been something boring, and those were the tenants looking. But I wanted it to be Nike, Apple. I knew what I wanted, and we weren't getting those. And all of a sudden, we got some momentum. Oh, one important part. Tower Records went bankrupt 16 or 17 years ago from now. But Tom Hanks' son, Colin, had done a documentary on Tower Records and painted the building and used it for the documentary, and we kept it up. It looked cool. So as I was doing the leasing, a lot of people online and in the world were like, they killed Tower Records. But no one killed Tower Records.
Yeah.
We wanted to preserve Tower Records, and Supreme basically became the tenant. And in that process, Supreme wanted to keep the culture of Tower Records. And Tower Records is not owned by the founder. It was owned by an IP holder, which is a business. People are out there buying all these names to hope to get rich because someone has to buy the name. Yeah. It's just like a business. Yeah. It's ambulance chasing. So that
like domain
they threatened to sue. and while Supreme had the coolest ideas, like we're going to do a record store within the store, we're going to keep Tower Records all over it. We were all told, like, lawsuit, don't do it. So unfortunately, they couldn't. But the deal was complicated because it was a longer term process. Talking an owner into not building, a broker talking an owner into not building. That's not common. Like, you kind of want to do the biggest you can. But no, that's like my hood. I live near there. I feel the community. I love the culture of the Sunset Strip. On my Instagram, I imagine my followers are probably sick of me posting the same thing all the time. But I believe up and down the strip, while it might look the same, every billboard changes. Every day changes. Even if it's the same billboard, something else is happening on the street. One day it's a motorcycle. One day it's a crazy person jumping up, doing jumping jacks. One day it's, old school cool cars.
There's a magic on
It's
that
just
street.
like different things happen. So I think like this, I have a whole thing about like, I post the same thing a lot, but every day is a different story. So anyway, that was one of the deals. The second one, I'll be quick, was it is Malibu, right? It's one of my favorite places in the world. Like Sunset Strip and Malibu are the two places I'm most, like, I could go down the list. Rodeo Drive and Beverly Hills and Venice. Like, there's all great areas, but I do a drive to Malibu a lot, and I've had projects out there for a long time. Malibu Lumberyard back in the day, 2004 to 2006, and now you still see some of the same stores that we did then. James Purse, Maxfield, the restaurant, Cafe Havana, like things like that. But it's also had some changes. And then years later, I have a client who I met when I moved to LA who was very loyal to me, and about 5 years ago hired me to lease what we call Cross Creek Ranch. And what I was going to say, the modern day challenge is we have built this awesome place. Marmel Radziner, the architect, built it. I introduced the owner to them, and he believed in it. And the property looks stunning, in my opinion. And most people, when they see it, they love it. It's like wood, and it blends into the mountains. It's the most epic scenery like ever, in my opinion. Yeah. And now we have fires, and now we can't get through PCH. And all these brands, we're now having to this is the hardest part. So I'm in the unknown. I don't know. Yeah. I think we're going to get through it. I think PCH will open. I believe on any beautiful day, like including this weekend, it'll be beautiful and 80 degrees on Sunday, and there'll be a lot of people around, but who knows? Eventually it opens back up. All the people are going to be there. But right now, it is a challenge. Telling people that it's going to be okay. I mean, we don't know. I'm actually doing a store there myself, which is a whole different conversation. I'm actually own a brand called California Incline, and I wanted to dive in and do what my clients do. And I'm doing merch, designing with, I have
check
a
it out.
partner in it.
It's very nice looking.
Thank
cozy
you.
Clothes.
I appreciate that. Kelsey Chapman is the designer and my partner in it. And she does it full time every day. But we're doing a store in Malibu while we're also online selling right now. Yeah. So it's an experience, but that's a current challenge. We're going to get through it, but it's real because it's a natural disaster situation.
No, I definitely have a lot of faith that LA
Yeah,
is going to bounce back in a very powerful way.
I think so.
Just seeing the community
Yeah, right.
togetherness and coming to support one another was
That was impressive. This whole
outstanding.
community
Yeah,
really did.
yeah.
We
When
did
you,
a few pop-ups at the time, like free deals for people giving clothing out to fire victims, and
Mhm.
they're the people doing it. There was a lot of them. They were into it. It was only
Mhm.
like 3 weeks of gathering as much clothing from these fashion brands that are in LA, and then giving them out to people with an address, Altadena, Palisades, or whatever it was, and it was incredible to see.
Made me very proud to live in LA. That's for sure.
Definitely, definitely,
But no, I think it does tie back. Both of those stories tie back to the amount of buy-in that you, as a creative problem solver, have in you have a very clear vision of what these properties could be and what pieces need to come together to make it a reality, which I think is such an important skill, especially in a broker, because you know, both parties will often not know what they don't know, for on one hand. On the other hand, if there's disagreements, you can bring these original ideas and the why behind it, which ultimately is, again, to better this community and to bring people together and make it a place that people want to be in, which is what real estate is about, even if it's, office or industrial. Like people do a lot better if they want to be there, right?
for sure.
Um, so I really appreciate that. I wanted to shift gears a little bit to get more into the world of luxury retail. It's not the majority of retail spots in the United States.
Right.
It's definitely its own niche. Um, so what would you say, just like as a starting point, other than the price point and the quality of products, but as operators, what makes luxury tenants or even owners of their properties distinct from the average retail entity?
Um, Very good question. And I think on the landlord side, it part of it started out as luck because a lot of people in real estate have owned. It's now passing on generations. So
Mhm.
I'm seeing the next generation down in my own business. I When I started in 2001, 2, 3, those years, I was dealing with the fathers. I didn't know the sons were maybe some of them weren't even alive. Now, what is it? 3 years. It's
2025.
crazy. Well, I know, and I know the year, but I'm thinking like, is it
Yeah.
23 years later? But yeah, like that many years later, some of
Yes,
these kids
yeah.
were 5 years old. Now I'm dealing with them and not their
Mm.
parents. And I'm actually friendly with a lot of them. Like it's amazing because now the kids are my friends and we're different ages, but it's not about age. It's like, I, I'm like in between the kids and the parents' age, but
Yeah.
I'm bros with both,
The cool uncle.
but a lot, I love my niece and nephew. So cool uncle for sure. I hope so. I hope they think so. Um, so I'm seeing that happen, and I do think a lot of people who bought real estate in the 70s or 80s, God, I know many of them, they bought because of whatever the reason. If you look back, the ones who bought in Rodeo are more lucky than ones who bought on, let's name any other street besides Rodeo, right?
Yeah.
And at the time the price may have been a similar price as somewhere else. You really
Mhm.
think about it. I mean, I can get in the residential. I know there's prices in LA and Beverly Hills, and I know exactly what they paid in 19. I've looked back on the research like
Mhm.
1970s, and then you go look in Maryland where I grew up, which is a beautiful place, but the same dollar amount, and look what happened in Beverly Hills. So it's part of like where we live, and
Yeah.
why did everyone want to come here? Well, Hollywood probably is a big part of it. I mean, there's industries here right
Mhm.
now. I'm a little worried for Hollywood. Like I feel like with all these other states giving incentives, I mean, we got to figure it out
Yeah.
because um, we're Hollywood, but right now we're maybe not the same way that we have been. And when I moved out here
Yeah.
and I was mentioning like I moved here for a summer and I wanted to be an actor. Well, 1995, the mountains, the Hollywood studios, walking on the Warner Brothers lot, like
Mm.
I got the
It's
chills. It was
magical.
like
It
magical.
really
Oh my
is.
God, I'm
Yeah.
here. I came out of University of Virginia. Next thing you know, I'm on Melrose Place as an extra at the time. Was like everyone in Virginia wanted to know like all about it. All I did was make
Mhm.
$31 in a wheelchair with a bandage, but I was on the set and
Yeah.
it was like it was magical. So
Yeah.
Hollywood needs to remain and be what it was, and we're in Hollywood land, and yet so much is happening outside of here. So that's a whole nother conversation, but it's one that everyone should explore. And that's like more like a political conversation. But there's a lot of angry people out there because we're losing to other cities. Like New Jersey this week just did something huge where there's going to be a whole lot of production there now based on tax incentives. We have all the
Atlanta's been
studios.
going strong.
We have all the
Vancouver's
people.
going
Yeah.
strong.
We have the people. We have social media wise. I mean, I can't think of a place that has more reach than Los Angeles. Look at, and by the way, I say Instagram, it's as real as it gets. Clothing, movies, anything, cars. I mean, everything, classic cars, whatever, art,
Food.
Instagram, food for sure. So why are people getting paid millions of dollars to post or whatever's happening? Well, because they have 300 or 400 million followers, or it could be 20,000 followers, whatever it is. People are getting paid for it. Most of those people are kind of in LA with a connection. I mean, there are a few athletes that aren't, that if you look them up, the most followed in the world. But so many, if you put it together, the reach coming out of Los Angeles is huge. So production-wise, it's important to keep things going, and it's going to have to change. It will change at some point, because you can't continue to. I can't imagine it continues to go in the direction it is right now.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to talk to you offline about some of that stuff too. But tying it back to luxury retail, it makes sense then with the magic that Los Angeles has. And obviously, these brands have footprints in lots of major cities globally.
Right.
But in LA, I'm curious if you have an inkling as to why Rodeo, why Beverly Hills, why Abbot Kinney? What about a particular place gives it that sparkle that brings in these major players?
Thank you for asking that great question. I'm going to also talk about history leading up to why today.
Perfect.
Okay? But history-wise, this might be funny, but think about the movie Pretty Woman walking down Rodeo Drive. That actually led to popularity at the time. I've seen the movie many times. I've seen what the street looked like many times. I actually found pictures of a family trip. I mean, I was a kid, and I have the photos, and I found them recently. I'm like, oh my God. So there are buildings. There's a restaurant on Rodeo Drive. I ended up selling the building years later. By the way, that building today, I mean, I'll just tell you, in 2004, I sold it for $19 million. I mean, it's worth 130, 40 million today. I mean, that owner would never sell it either because they don't want to sell. And then prior to me selling it in 2004, imagine I was here in 1980s. My family building was $300,000, $500,000. So people were buying, and it doesn't look like a lot today, but at that time, if someone bought a building for $300,000 to $500,000, they had real money. But they did for whatever and some of them guessed right. So when the luxury brands started coming, I mean, like imagine walking down and a line in the movie Pretty Woman says, "Rodeo Drive, baby." It's like a line in the movie. Yeah. There's only one place to go. And then you see Julia Roberts walk around, she gets turned down, then she goes back later and she says, "Big mistake, big," because they didn't, sell her the clothes, which today they would probably, if someone walks in with a credit card, they're going to probably sell. But
there's still a couple of stores where they'll be like,
that's not true, because like in the art world, you can't just buy any piece of art. They want to know who's buying it. Certain things, like in the vintage car world, they want to know, like, they don't want it to ruin. Yeah, there's relationships, and there's just who's buying it. Like they do have a choice, but maybe that was a little bit of what that scene was. Yeah. But my point is, Rodeo Drive in a movie, and then there are other examples of Beverly Hills Cop 90210 at that time, big movie in the 80s, lead into Beverly Hills 90210 in the 90s, and Melrose Place. And things about, like, Melrose Place, the street, where I've now done 50 leases. When I started, there was Marc Jacobs had just done something, and Marnie was there. And then I ended up doing like Isabel Marant, Bottega Veneta, and a whole thing just started happening. But that was 2006 when I got involved. But when I moved here, Melrose Place was carpets and whatnot on
There's
Melrose
still
Place.
some carpets
And
there.
And there are some, and those are the people that own the buildings, okay?
Yes.
Trust me.
What is it? It's not Lawrence of Arabia. It's like
that one, I think it's on La Brea, or maybe it's La Cienega.
It might be on Beverly. I live like
okay, got it. So maybe it's Beverly. Yeah.
There,
I know the ones on
by.
Melrose, La Cienega, and Melrose Place, like that whole area. I kind of know by heart, but the one you just said, I've heard of it for sure. But yes, people bought their real estate, and at that time on Melrose, they were buying it to house rugs and furniture. Then they became fashion. So back to Rodeo. something very important. Sales are really high. So if you take it to today, the street built in the 1970s. John Peters had a hair salon on the corner. There's a gas station where Chanel was, like across the street, and Chanel was John Peters. So here we are today, and it became what it did through people wanting to be not miss out on the party, to a point where you can't find space on Rodeo Drive today. You can't buy a building. You can't lease space. I mean, we're selling once in a while. You sell a building once in a while. Now we're leasing, but I've probably leased 100 in my 20-year career. It's over. It's like you got to be. It's got to get so lucky now. Like one deal and you're good, because people are signing 10 and 15-year leases, or they're buying their building and never leaving.
Yeah.
So in a way, we've leased ourselves out of a job if we're doing deals on Rodeo Drive.
And that was going to be my next question. So for luxury brands, obviously if they do think they're going to be there for 10, 15 years and it's an institution, of course it makes sense to buy as opposed to lease. What other factors go into making that decision? And I'm curious, maybe not on Rodeo, because Rodeo is such a legacy, but have you ever seen examples of where maybe they've wanted to buy and it turns out that wasn't a good idea, or they ended up leasing and maybe they should have bought?
It's very hard to buy. Okay.
Yes.
And anyone I've ever sold to, or anyone that I think I've heard about buying, since they're few and far between, has been happy they owned it. Most owners on a street like Rodeo Drive are not selling. So over the years, we could talk about 20 sales in 20 years. That's it.
1 a year is probably
I mean,
great for you.
whatever. Well, yeah, it can be. And there were a couple of years where I assembled real estate, and it was exciting, and it was incredible, and it was a high, it was a run. I'll never forget it. But if I sell one now, I'm very happy. But they do well. The reason they're buying, their sales speak for themselves. It's not. There's people say, oh, they just want to put their name up. They don't care what their sales. It's not true. They want their name up, but if they wanted just their name up, they wouldn't have gone from 25-foot wide stores to 50 to now 100. So if you really think about what that means, it means brands, the fact they want to buy is a huge thing. They don't just buy in any city. Brands lease. They're buying in our city. There's a reason. They want to be here. They want to be for the tourists. They want to be for the locals. And their sales are really high compared to other stores around the world. So they want to own if they can.
And that brings me to my next thought. We're in a time of economic uncertainty, not getting into any politics. There's a lot of things that remain to be seen, I think, from a consumer mindset perspective. Will people be spending more or less? But, a lot of the talk about luxury retail is that it's relatively recession proof. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, without speaking about anyone specifically, I mean, generally, the brands, because of how wealthy they are, can afford the ding, like the economic ups and downs. But none of them are okay with it. I mean,
they'd prefer not to.
When there are issues and changes, I mean, they have to get extra careful. So what I see is brands being way extra careful today than ever. And I do think, and I don't know this from them, I just believe that they believe the future will get brighter, but not yet. And they need to be conservative, take a step back, do the stores that are must-be stores and not do as many. And then the goal is that in a couple of years, everything really does come back. But right now, it's a different kind of a time. I mean, some brands are way in the sky and others aren't. I mean, there's so many different reasons why consumers like brands and why they're spending the money and making the brands as good as they are. I mean, consumers, at the end of the day, it's the consumers out there that are the answer. They're the ones spending.
Yep. And with the exclusivity of luxury, there's a certain identity politics at play and desirability at play that I think is, as compared to Ross or any other.
When something's very exclusive and expensive and hard to get, I mean, whether you can afford it or not, there's a feeling that you see. I mean, when it's something that not everyone can get, there's an excitement. I imagine you call it a rush. I mean, when someone can get something that others can't. If I can find a little camera, I mean, I love cameras that you can't find. I get excited. I
Vintage
mean,
guy?
yeah, I am actually both. But like,
Yeah.
I would if I could have a camera in my hand all day, I would. But I love
Yeah.
cameras. But my first camera was a Canon AE1 35 millimeter camera as a kid.
Yep.
So that's still to this day my favorite camera. And
Yeah.
now I have a few as decoration, and I have the two still that I had as a kid. So that's pretty cool. When there became AE1 program when I was a kid, that meant you don't have to set the shutter speed. That was a big deal.
Yes.
Right now you hit it down halfway, it gets clear, and you take the picture.
Yep.
So,
and then we went digital, and it's a whole other ball game.
Definitely.
So before we get more into your thoughts on the state of retail in Los Angeles, if you were advising, and you probably are right now, an emerging luxury brand looking to set up shop in Los Angeles, what would be the key things that you would tell them?
Well, everyone wants to talk about rent, usually everywhere, and that is as important. It's as important as it sounds, rent. But to get to the rent, you have to have a size, right? Size changes rent. So, for example, if a space is 1,000 feet and the price per foot is $6 a foot, it's $6,000 a month. If it's 3,000 feet, it's $18,000 a month. So size matters because price per foot dictates a market. So on Rodeo Drive, it's X. On 3rd Street east of the Beverly Center, it's a different X. On Rodeo Drive, it could be $1,000 a foot per annum. In LA, we speak per month. It's a real estate thing. We're the only people that do it.
We are. It's so weird.
So when you're talking to international tenants like on Rodeo, we speak per annum. It's $800 a foot per annum or $1,000 a foot. Right when we go to 3rd Street or any other street, Abbot Kinney, it's like, oh, Abbot Kinney is $15 to $20 per foot per month. I mean, it's $180 to $240 per annum, whereas Rodeo is $1,000. Well, let's go to 3rd Street. If it's $5 to $7 per month, then it's $60 per annum, to 72 or whatever, speak that way. But 3rd Street is a lot less than these other high-end streets we're talking about. We just did a deal for a very cool brand, first store. I think they've been big online. I don't know if I should announce it. I won't. I'll let them be.
I'll ask you after.
But yeah, I'll tell you after. She probably would love it if I did, but I'm not going to. Just in case. Yeah. But the rent is like $6,000-7,000 a month, $6,000 or $7,000 a month for under 1,000 feet. And it's near
on 3rd?
Yeah, on 3rd Street near Magnolia Bakery in that area. La Labo's next door. So we signed a deal with a great fashion brand, and it was vacant, by the way, for a long time. I have a client in New York that owns the building, who also owns on Rodeo Drive and all over New York. That guy cares about that $6,000 a month like he cares about his tenant on Rodeo Drive. He just cares. It doesn't like vacancy. So we had a lot of talks for a year or so, and that one stayed vacant for a while because we couldn't do food, and a lot of that area is food, and we were waiting for fashion, and we got it finally. But it took a while. It really did take a while. That tenant, it was about rent. I checked the landlord box. It's not just rent and size. It's the landlord. That can make or break your life, okay? Someone is a mean, doesn't care about human type of landlord. They're not going to care when you're in bad times. And if they do care and the COVID happens or a fire or things like that, they will be the first to give a break. So that's important. And I know who the good ones and bad ones are. Usually I know them all, but there are times I don't, and you have to feel it out. So that's important. So it's basically location, rent, size. We get involved helping with the term and the deal. There's also, I don't want to get boring here, but taxes can be very high
especially in LA.
or not. So if someone's owned the building for a long time, the tax basis is low. If they bought it a year ago, it's high. Yes. That gets passed through to a tenant. So if you're a brand looking to do a store and you're a startup, I mean, I'm speaking to you, you're there. Like, if you're a brand, you do need to know about how high the taxes are, because the difference of $6,000 a month and 12 is a lot, versus $6,000 a month plus only 1,000 in taxes. You have to know that, and hopefully the broker handling it represents you right where they know what it needs. And over time, you get to know who can afford what. It becomes second nature. I could tell you right now, like, what a restaurant on the street should pay, what a gym should pay. I kind of just know it. I could tell them what they need to pay.
You're a walking comps book.
Well, I know what they need to pay. I really do, because I've seen the ones fail. I've seen the ones make it, and I know where the rubber band breaks. So I could tell them what it should be at this point.
and that comes from experience. But I also appreciate you calling out, I think specifically in retail too, that relationship between the landlord and the user.
Yeah.
They are all part of the same building that is interfacing with the consumer. So they're on the same team
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Right. For
And
sure.
you want to make sure those teammates get along and
They may not
collaborate
know they're on
well.
the same. They don't always act like they are, and
Yeah.
some do and some don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that street is made up now for the community. And no one knows what it took to fight that landlord to agree to that tenant.
Yeah.
But a lot of it on the landscape, we're fighting for the right tenant more than I can tell you. My team would tell you, I mean, we're fighting for the right tenant, and you can't always win that war. The landlord is entitled, if they own the building, to want the better credit tenant than the cooler one. We deal with that a lot, and it's a fight. We've won it many times, and we've lost it sometimes, but it's real. You know, the landlord owns the building. There's no law. You can't just tell them to take something because it's better. Some of them haven't heard of these tenants we're bringing them. That's another conversation. Imagine a business where the owner of the building may know nothing about the business. So they bought it in 1970. Now their kid has it. People, whatever it is, or they still have it themselves. They're 80 years old, whatever. It could be anything. They don't know the brands. We're telling them that how great it is and that they need it. Some of them just, they don't care. So it's not like there's some board of approval. It's not like that. It's all scattered landlords, unless it's a mall where they can choose. But on a street, it's all these different landlords everywhere. So we're like, where the malls are doing it their way, I kind of feel like we're here to uphold the streets, kind of competing with the malls. I'm not going to say we're not, because we are. We're trying to bring the brands to the streets.
It's a curation of
It's a
experiences.
curation but
the
we
foot
don't
traffic
own them
there.
unless we own something. That's a different. If a broker wants to buy a building, great. But we're working for this for like the monopoly board, really. That is all different owners. So we're kind of choosing the best curation we can with all these different owners when we're doing deals on the street.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that overview. And, getting more into what's happening in the retail landscape in LA. You know, nationally, I think we're in a bit of a nice retail boom. Maybe a little bit tempered this year, but it's proven itself, especially amid a little bit maybe overvalued asset classes that have come down since COVID. And it came back in a really strong way. At the same time, there's a lot of for lease signs up in Los Angeles right now. So you're in it, breathing it every day. What are you seeing on the ground, particularly in Los Angeles County?
Yeah. Well, I get asked that. I do at every restaurant or every conversation. I hear people say something like that. But let's talk about the two different worlds of those signs. The most sought after areas, you can't find space. Competitive. Let's use 10 examples. Rodeo Drive, forget it. You're not finding space. Beverly Drive, Erewhon changed that street. So if I bring any tenant there and they see Erewhon, it's over. They feel the energy they want to store.
The one by the Grove, you mean?
No, well, I'm speaking on Beverly
Oh,
Drive,
on
because there is
Beverly,
Beverly
yes,
Boulevard by
yeah.
the Grove, the first store.
Not to be confused.
But using Beverly Drive because it's like Beverly
that
Hills.
arrow one right there.
And then
yeah.
Cannon Drive. You can't find a space. Aloe's first store, James Purse's, not his first store, but his like one of the early ones. I did it with him 15 years ago. But and I did Aloe's first store there, and I'm not representing them now, but at that time I did the store for them, and it was exciting because it was like no one knew who they were. But that's Cannon Drive. You can't find space. Go to Abbot Kinney. I'm doing a deal now. We have a bungalow. We have 3 tenants wanting it. So despite the negativity, 3 tenants want 1 space. Try to find a space on Abbot Kinney. I have one brand wanting 4,000 feet down, up from their 2,000 foot current store. Go find it. Can't. So we could go down the list of about 10 or 12 areas in LA, even Malibu, which right now with the fires, we're trying our best to just keep everyone calm. But there hasn't been any vacancy, until now. And I have a new project out there, which we've been putting together to be the next thing. But that's the better streets and areas. Now let's talk about you're just driving along in your car and you're seeing signs everywhere. Yeah. There's no law that says every space should be leased. Every business should be. How many businesses are there in the world? We have online. We have people in offices. we have so many brands and cool retail things happening, but how many can there be? So when you see a vacancy, well, think about how many there also are leased. And in everyone that is leased, there's a business, and they're paying employees, and they're paying insurance, and they're paying the taxes, and they're running an operation, and they're doing whatever they do. So that's the realness part, away from the amazing high rent, hard to find spaces. But it's not all perfect. There's a lot of vacancy, but it's scattered throughout. In a world where everything's done online, there still needs to be servicing the community. And a lot of them really are. It's just that mixed in with those servicing the community, there's vacancy.
So I'm curious then, what would you recommend to a landlord not in that quite desirable space, but maybe close, like maybe off of La Brea, between Beverly and Melrose, or the neighborhoods that we do see a lot of signs, but they're not, they're walkable still. There is a
Yeah,
community there.
definitely.
How would you advise landlords that are trying to get these retailers into their
Well,
buildings?
as an example, you just mentioned an area. I just mentioned a deal on 3rd Street next to Magnolia Bakery with a
Yeah.
great landlord. That landlord was awesome. I mean, we got the right tenant. We did the deal. He wasn't fighting it. It's an example of it's hard to fill every single space. That particular 5 spaces is a building I rep, so I care about it like it's mine. And we leased the 1 vacancy in that same area, because that's between the Grove and Beverly Center, 3rd, like near Jones on 3rd, that area. But if you go to Beverly Boulevard, near where we were talking about, if you're not from LA, we're just talking about like, could be Brooklyn off 6 in areas
But
that aren't.
the same, I think, level of specificity of knowing your neighborhoods, knowing the streets, knowing the
Yeah.
addresses is so important, especially as a broker or anyone who's involved with real estate at all. That it's important. So it maybe sound like gibberish, but
No. Right. It could
I
sound like
appreciate
gibberish, but
it.
every town probably has what you're saying. So it's
Yes.
like, if this is a national audience, an international audience, whatever it might be, and you're asking that question for whatever their streets are that are just off the main drag,
Apply it.
it's kind of like what I was saying, that there's not a rule that every space needs to be leased. But you asked about the landlord, and my advice would be that when you get a tenant that feels right for the community, that fits in, that people will like, you really feel that it's needed, that you should ease up and not lose it over too much security deposit. They go nuts for financials. I mean, my landlord clients wouldn't like me saying right now that they need to ease up on financials, because they're trying to know that if someone stops paying rent, they can collect on rent. But I personally have always wanted to have like my favorite shopping strip is a Brentwood Country Mart. If I owned it, and they've done it perfect, it's fine. It's just an example of what I love. But I want to do like new brands without credit that are cool, mixed in with the restaurants, mixed in with some known brands. Like, to me, that's the mix. Not if every brand was a billionaire, they would be buying buildings. Give people a chance. They're in a business. If they had the massive wealth behind them to give you the hugest financial statement, they're not going to really be doing this. So they're putting their heart into the business. Does it have to be about the financial signature? So that's a whole nother conversation. I want to get too into it because I'll get in trouble with certain people. But
Yeah.
I do fight for the tenant a lot.
And I mean, it's their business. It's their everything, right?
It is.
They want to make it happen, and especially scrappy younger companies, they're going to fight tooth and nail to be
100%.
successful.
But then imagine you owned a building. Imagine I owned a building. Imagine anyone listening owns a building. Now reverse it. Okay. The tenant has 1 month security and they may leave in 3 months. I mean, then you start to realize, okay, I get what the landlord's saying. They don't want they don't want to always be trying to lease the space. But I definitely fight for the tenant a lot with my friendly landlord clients.
Sure. I'm curious, how do restaurants factor in? So they're much more experiential than the average retailer. Um, LA does, I'm biased. I think LA has the best food in the world, personally.
Love our food.
So how do they factor into the real retail landscape? How do they anchor and complement the shopping centers that you work on? And how do you think about
And by the
them
way,
in the landscape?
I'm more of the street, because I think shopping centers are Disneyland, and I would rather, like, I want the old camera and I want the old classic car, right? I like the streets. It's the real gritty, like the streets.
When I say shopping center, I
Yeah, but I know
mostly
what you
mean
mean.
a collection
But I
where
just want to make
shopping
sure
is
that
done.
not there's anything wrong with shopping centers
Yeah.
because they're behemoths and they do amazing and people
Yeah.
go and they're
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
all the traffic. But
Yeah.
that's what they do. I love the streets. And a lot of the restaurants I deal with are on the streets. It's not as easy. To get a restaurant done, they need to build out a kitchen. It's expensive. Here's what happens in real estate. The restaurant needs to eventually turn the lights on, turn key, and have their kitchen. If they're a restaurant at night, their liquor license, their seating, everything that goes into it. Takes time, the city. So a retailer usually can get in like 4 months, do their cosmetic work and paint and do their beautiful design, and it's 4 months, 6 months. A restaurant could take over a year. And then where it becomes an issue is when they need code says something. So they have to now ask a landlord to wait for them to get an approval. So it's not easy. What usually happens in the restaurant business is that if a restaurant's leaving, we call it second generation. That means it has a kitchen and it has the ability for a new restaurant to come in, do their own cosmetic improvements and make it look their way, but they're taking an existing functioning former restaurant.
Yeah.
That's how it usually
Shorter
works.
lead time.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's easier, and HVAC's plugged there, and
Got
electric
the
is
fridge
there,
already.
and bathrooms are there. So it's just like it's more sought after, but it's also harder because I notice in LA, as tough as it is for many, some of them are killing it, and whether you're killing it or not, you don't really want to leave your restaurant space. So it's not like you don't see a lot of restaurant change, but you do, but not a lot. You know?
Yeah, it's tough being a restaurateur.
But it
especially in
is.
the
I
high
mean,
cost
look,
of living
there's
city.
minimum wage issues in West Hollywood. There's so many things. I had someone tell me recently who owns a restaurant chain, kind of a hipster guy, like cool. We were talking about it, and he's like, Ozempic. He starts telling me reasons. He's like, people aren't going out as much. I mean, he had like his own reasons, but City of West Hollywood has minimum wage. A lot of the restaurants there are feeling it because then the people above minimum wage want more, and then it trickles. So the profits become a lot less, and there are other factors, but California is not the easiest place in the world to net profit in that world, in that business. Now, if you're coming to California as part of your national expansion, you're in New York and Miami and everywhere else, you got to have that LA presence because we have the people, we have a certain clientele that is both good for your business growth because it can go worldwide in 2 seconds if the right people like it. That's important. The sales can be really high. So if you're doing a restaurant, let's say it doesn't net as much as it might in another city, but it grosses the same. I mean, does that make sense? Like you're not netting as much, but you're grossing the same. Because at California, you net a little less because it's California. But now you're showing, let's say you're going to go sell that company one day. You're showing gross numbers. Only LA and Miami and New York are, in my opinion, get numbers that high. There are other cities, we could name the next 7 or so in the States.
Who you think is next?
Well,
the world
I'm
of
just saying
luxury.
like those 3 cities have a potential to get the highest of all. That's what I pretty much know, except for the anomalies in each of those other cities that are like the famous restaurants in those cities.
Sure, totally. I'm curious, what is, and we don't have to go here if you don't want, but what is a contrarian or spicy take you have about the future of retail that most people wouldn't expect or maybe disagree with?
Well, it's what I do, so I'm cool talking about it because if it goes away, I'm done. I can't do anything else. I guess I'll just be a photographer.
You have your clothing company too.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not like making money yet. It's kind of like learning, and then someday we hope that it turns a profit. But now I'm seeing what it's like. Owning a business, like
you got skin in the game.
There's so much that people don't realize goes into it.
Totally.
A business. I believe that we're going to be more than fine because brands are always evolving and changing. And I actually think because of our phones and social media and how important social media is to the world right now, everyone's always wanting the next best thing. And the world is competing with each other. The younger people are exploring ideas. And while we're talking now, somebody is inventing a company, starting one. That's going to be huge right now. We don't know it yet, but it will be. Someone smart out there with, an instinct that's going to do it. So it's going to always be ever changing, but it can get harder and harder if taxes go up or if prices keep going up. Like there's a lot of that, but there's a place for everyone. There is a different spot in our town. In LA, New York. Let's go to small cities. There are higher rent districts, I'm sure, in Alabama, a place I haven't been.
Austin.
I mean, Austin's more,
Seattle, yeah.
but yes, they all have their highest rent streets and then they have their side streets wherever they are. Some towns are bigger than others. But for that place, there's the ability to show and showcase who you are, whether you're owning a fashion store, a restaurant, a dry cleaners. If it's a dry cleaner, you still want it to look good. I mean, whatever it is, you have a chance to make it the best you can make it. And I just think that's going to continue in time. We have all this space and the market will bear what it can bear. If in 20 years the rents are lower than they were today, then it'll bear that. If they're way higher, there will always be that. But the areas can definitely change with the brands. There was Robertson Boulevard was the it street 2005, 6, 7, and now it's very hard. There's no need for tenants to go there the same way they did. There are deals being done with different kinds of tenants. It's become a home street, like a beautiful James Perse home store where Ralph Lauren was, 11,000 feet of you walk in there like, wow, this is done so perfectly. But that used to be Ralph Lauren, and then it was all fashion. Now you have Melrose Avenue and Beverly Hills. So even if you're not in LA and you have no idea what I'm talking about, Robertson Boulevard centrally is between Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. But there are tenants in West Hollywood and Beverly Hills, so they don't need to be on Robertson anymore. But Robertson's becoming this home to the industry.
Those are the HD Buttercup giant places.
Well,
right?
It's more like the James Perse store and I don't know, is it HB Buttercup? I mean, Design Within Reach has a small thing there.
Yeah. There's a strip in LA where it's just these massive home goods stores, furniture stores.
Beverly Boulevard does have a lot of the big ones, for sure. They're all right there. I mean, look, they're now on Robertson too. That's why I'm just, D&D. I mean, the names go on.
Places evolve because of the creatives that come in and manifest the world that they want to live in which their business is successful, and then people come.
Right.
Things change.
Some people are passionate. Some people just need a job, but it keeps evolving. Keeps
absolutely. Creativity is a hugely powerful force. That's for sure.
100%.
So I want to be mindful of our time. We've been going for a while. This has been so much fun. But I have a couple rapid fire questions.
All right.
I'd love to close this conversation.
All right.
So quick.
Should I get my pen ready?
Quick, yeah. Write them down super fast. If you were handed $50 million today, and in LA, that's probably actually not as much as it could be somewhere
It's a lot
else.
Anywhere. It's a lot
But
anywhere.
$50 million cash today, you had to invest it immediately by the end, 5 o'clock today. Where would you park it and why?
Is it in real estate or
in real estate? That's
the cars, art, watches.
That's the kick.
No, I'm kidding. For real estate, I mean, look, I would buy the Brentwood Country Mart.
It's such a cute little
that would be
place.
it. That would
I
be
love that place.
That
so
would be
much.
it. But I would buy. I do it for clients anyway. I mean, I do it. I've owned my own real estate. I was a part owner of the Malibu Village shopping center. Like I was in it. I've been there. I love what I do. Like being a broker, if you add it up over the years, it's like you bought a building. Because when you buy and own a building, you might wait 10 years to get paid. When you're a broker, you're active every year, hopefully. And, it adds up. It's like you're in the know and you're doing deals and you're not competing with your clients who want to buy buildings. So there's two sides to that because a lot of brokers have the dream of owning a lot. And I would like to own a couple more, like Malibu Village was like time of my life. But I love the deal part. And if you do both, I've watched these people in different cities buy it up. People don't trust them on the brokerage side anymore because now they only care about their property. They're not biased. So I'm okay not owning them all. But like you said, by 5 o'clock today, my favorite building would be the Brentwood Country Mart. If I could buy that building, it's not for sale. It'll never be for sale. But that would be my choice.
Absolutely. I'll ask you after what the watching cars would be.
Classic Porsche.
What is the? I love the 911 Turbo. That's my favorite.
Good one.
What's the craziest way you found a new client?
The craziest way.
Yeah.
I wonder. I'm sure it's in my head somewhere, but I don't know. Clients come different ways. Sometimes they call because they've heard of me. Sometimes I have to go after them. It's a combination.
Any weird social media story or
I
your
do get a
growth
lot
at
of,
some
I do get a lot of,
gala?
I post stuff now
Yeah.
and I get a lot of responses when I'm posting Malibu or Sunset Strip or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And people do respond. Like if someone is in the restaurant world, they'll ask me questions and it's become real. So it's not weird. It's not like, oh, the craziest way I've done, but I've done deals multiple times now from Instagram.
Yeah.
Because people are on it. It's in it. And I think my following is probably engagement's really good. It's a lot of comments and a lot of people seeing what goes on. And in COVID, I would give stories about what I was seeing in the market, and people keep asking me when I'm going to do one about the fires. I think it's been once a year now, but during March of 2020, I did them every 3 months to tell people what I was seeing. So I'll probably do another one soon just to give my own take on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, like we were saying before we started rolling, people love human stories. They want to know what people are thinking and doing.
I might not realize that what's in my head could be like educational to someone, because to me it's just normal. But if I just said, here's what I'm seeing after the fires in LA for 2 months, someone might look at that and really learn from it. And I hope they do. Totally. And that's why I'll do another video soon of just, here's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's why we're really, really glad to have you here, because you're sharing it right now.
Thank you.
The one last question, what is the most common misconception that people have about your job or your industry?
That's a good question too. A lot of good questions today. I can answer it because I even have it about other brokers.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
I don't trust every broker. I don't even like the name broker. We put people together, and the misconception is that all we want is just to get a deal done and move on and make the money. Everyone wants to see cha-ching like they do on the TV shows. Not all that at all. And if you really care about what you're doing, it will show. And then your clients do tell their friends, and they do come back for the second and third location, or the 50th, which I have a few clients that have, thank goodness.
Wow.
You have to really care though, and that comes from, maybe it comes from birth, maybe it comes from upbringing, maybe it comes from the environment that you're in. Your friends can influence you. And if you have bad friends, you could be a bad person. If you have great friends, you can be a great person. But family, friends, whatever it takes to be real. But I'd like to think that I'm real. So to answer what misconception, that a broker doesn't care and they just want the money. That's the misconception. I want to make a living, for sure, but I want to do it right. I could make more money not doing it right. I could just put tenants everywhere, not care, and charge them. It's not like that. Like in the end, you want it, that monopoly board and that landscape of the town, you want it to feel really good to you. Like I want it to feel good. So I never think twice. And then everything from that point on is natural. Like whatever happens, happens. And they'll know.
Yeah, people can tell.
They'll know. People can weed people out.
Yeah. Well, Jay, your passion shows through so strongly. Really, really grateful that you spent the time with us today. I learned a lot. We'll keep chatting after the cameras turn off.
Definitely.
But where can people find you if they want to connect? You mentioned Instagram, so definitely look up on Instagram.
At JayLuchs at Jay Luchs is Instagram.
Okay.
And then email is jay.luchs is my work email.
Okay.
nmrk.com. So it's N for Nancy, M for Mark, RK.com. It stands for Newmark, but we can't spell it out. So j.luchs at nmrk.com. Not giving my cell number out, but I think I get calls every day on my cell, so it's obviously on. Yeah. You can look it up.
You can connect with him if you really try.
but yeah, I respond. Like people DM, and I once in a while remember to check the section where the ones I don't follow, and then I'll go through them, and people reach out, and I'll connect that way too.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Again.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for your interest.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't miss the next one. Visit Crexi.com/podcast and sign up to get the next episode delivered straight to your inbox. You can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app, or check out our YouTube channel for video recordings of each episode. Take care and be sure to tune in next time.